Okay, so in this video I want to talk about an issue that I had regarding doing a do-it-yourself AC Pro type fill of the refrigerant in the low pressure hose of a vehicle. So I'm going to go into a quick story about what happened and to give you an idea of what I was experiencing so that it should be able to help someone in a similar situation. I really felt like I really need to make this video because it took me a long time to figure out what the issue was on this problem. Okay, so here's what happened. So at the time, I was not aware that my vehicle had lost the refrigerant. So in a car, refrigerant goes from liquid to gas to liquid to gas, back and forth, in order to create cold air. Now, what happened was my vehicle was blowing hot air. And because it was blowing hot air, I just assumed that I should go ahead and recharge the system. Problem is that when I hooked up the AC Pro to the low pressure hose, you can see right here in the photo, if you look in the photo, this individual has the AC Pro connected to the low pressure nozzle there. But what was happening was that there's a gauge on these AC Pro cans that shows like if it's in the right pressure zone or not. For me, it was showing that the pressure was good, but in the vehicle, the air was still coming out hot. Now, it's possible that you can have a leak, and that's the reason why, even if you were to fill it up, you get hot air is because it's got a leak. However, if when you connect the hose to the low pressure line, if it's showing that you have pressure, if it's showing that it's in the green, then obviously you do have refrigerant in your system. So it's not that. So I knew that there was refrigerant in the system based on the gauge on the canister of AC Pro. So what ended up happening is that I couldn't add more to the system, because what would happen is when I tried to add this refrigerant into the system, it would spew it back up and out. So I knew that there was too much pressure in the system. Okay, so what was the issue? So now that you have a general understanding of what was taking place, that there was pressure in the system when I connected this bottle, but yet the air was not cold in the vehicle. The problem is that there was air in the system. Okay. So what I had to do was when the AC compressor clutch engaged, that's when I had to give it a squirt of the refrigerant. And then what would happen is the compressor would compress this refrigerant into a gas. Okay. And at first, the AC compressor clutch it would go on and then off very quickly. So I only had a very small window of time in order to give it a squirt of the refrigerant so that it could compress this liquid into a gas. Okay. So for anybody who's experiencing this issue, I'm not even joking when I said that this took me a stupid amount of time to determine what the issue was specifically. So anyway, so I had to stand there with this bottle of AC Pro and have it connected, and I would give it a squirt once the compressor engaged. Now, how do you know this? How would you know if the compressor clutch is engaging? Well, you'd have to have the hood open, and you'd have to be looking directly at the AC compressor. You'd have to know what the AC compressor looked like, for starters. I don't have a photo of that right now, but you need to find out what the AC compressor looks like. And then once you know what it looks like, you can see it has a little metal plate on the front of this compressor that spins around. That's the AC compressor clutch. So I would wait for and I would watch for the AC compressor clutch to engage. It would spin. And then once it started to spin, I would give it a squirt of this refrigerant. The AC compressor would compress the liquid and then into a gas. And as time went on, while I was giving it these little squirts of refrigerant, the AC compressor clutch would stay on longer and longer. So at first it was like a second, and then it would get to 2.5 seconds, and then 3 seconds. So it would increase the amount of time that the AC compressor clutch was engaged, the more I added to the system. And I would just wait. I would just time the squirts of refrigerant with the AC compressor clutch. Now, when you're in a bind, like I was during this time, and the mechanics are just slammed. They just are slammed in terms of their availability. They are very, very busy. Or you just don't happen to have the extra $600 or whatnot to spend on the issue. Now, kind of a disclaimer here. Yes, you should have this professionally done. You absolutely should have it professionally done, in my opinion. You should take it to the mechanic. You should have them diagnose the situation with the air conditioning. But sometimes you're in a situation where you don't have that ability. Like, you're not in a situation where you're a mechanic and you need to have your air conditioning working. But yeah, so my opinion is you definitely should have it professionally handled for your AC system, for sure. But if you find yourself having to do it yourself, this is what I am here to tell you. So that is essentially what happened. There was air in the system, which is why it was showing that there was enough pressure in the system based on the gauge of the AC Pro, even though there was not enough refrigerant, in the system to cool the air. So I stood there, timed the clutch, gave it a squirt when the clutch would engage, and then I would take my finger off the trigger of the canister when it stopped. So it would engage, I would squirt. It would disengage, I would release the trigger. And I kept doing this over and over again until it got to the point where the gauge showed correctly. See, what was happening was, when I would wait for the AC compressor clutch to engage, and then I would give it a squirt of the refrigerant, the gauge would go from showing as being full down to, and then it would show it as being empty. Okay, that's how I knew that there was not enough refrigerant in the system, and that's how I knew like when to stop adding refrigerant. Is because the more that I press the trigger on this canister, the more that each time the gauge would show, it would continue to show fuller and more full and more full and more full, until it finally got into, once the compressor was, the AC compressor clutch was engaged, it would show on the gauge of my canister that it was full, even with the AC compressor engaged. That's how I knew that's it. That's all I need to add. I'm done. And that is what took place with my air conditioning system, and that's how I fixed it. After I did that process, then I had cold air coming through the vents, which was awesome because it was extremely, extremely hot during that summer.